The walls pulsed with every breath, veins glowing brighter. The hum now a steady throb that made teeth ache. The chamber was no longer silent. It groaned like a living creature stretching after endless sleep. Her crew clung to the floor, shouting over the roar. But the ship's voices cut sharper, each whisper aimed like a blade. Mara's own skull burned with her brother's voice, soft and pleading. "Stay, don't leave me again." Her heart twisted, but she forced herself to look away, to keep her mind steady. The young one scrambled to her side, tears streaking his face. "Captain, we have to fight it. We have to burn it." His hands trembled, his eyes darted wildly. "If we don't, it will take us all." But another voice rose behind him. Calm, cold, certain. The older crewman stood tall, his hands pressed to the wall as though drawing life from it, his eyes glowing faint blue. "You're wrong," he said softly. "It doesn't want to kill us, it wants to give us more." The pilot snarled, raising his rifle. "You're lost, it's inside your head." But the older man only smiled. Too wide, too calm. "Inside all our heads. Can't you hear it? Can't you feel it? It knows us. It remembers us." The whispers swelled, wrapping around his words, echoing them back until the whole chamber seemed to chant, "Remember, remember." The engineer cursed, clutching his ears. "It's using him, Captain. It's using his voice." Mara's grip on her rifle tightened, her breath steady but her chest tight. The older crewman turned, his gaze fixed on Mara. "It spoke your brother's name, didn't it? It gave you what you lost. It gave you hope." Her throat went dry, her rifle wavered. Because the truth stung. It had spoken her brother's voice. It had pulled the wound from her chest. The whispers pressed sharper. Her brother's laugh filling the chamber. "Mara, don't abandon me." Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. For a moment she almost believed. But then the young crewman shouted, breaking the spell, "It's lying, Captain. It's digging into us, making us weak." The older man's smile hardened into something cruel. "Weak, no, not weak, chosen." He stepped away from the wall, his hand reaching for his tool belt, his voice rising. "It promised me a place. It promised me power." Before anyone could move, he grabbed the engineer's pack and hurled it across the floor, spilling wires, charges, and fuel cells. The ship's veins pulsed brighter as if answering him, the walls groaning like approval. The pilot shouted, firing a shot into the ceiling. Sparks raining. "He's turned, he's one of them now." The older crewman lunged, his hands closing around the young one's throat, his voice a growl. "The ship said one must stay. One must bind," the boy choked, kicking. His lamp clattering to the floor, shadows dancing across the walls. Mara raised her rifle, her heart hammering, the whispers screaming louder. "Choose, choose, choose." Her hands trembled. Her mind split between the brother's voice begging and the sight of her crew tearing each other apart. She fired, the blast deafening, the shot tearing the older man's shoulder, sending him sprawling. He laughed even as blood spilled, his voice shaking but full of triumph. "You can't kill me, Captain." "It has me now." The walls pulsed brighter, the whispers rising to a fevered pitch, wrapping his scream in their chorus. The young one gasped, crawling to Mara's side, tears streaking his dirt-covered face. "He's gone, Captain. He's theirs." Mara stared down at the older man, his smile twisted, his body trembling as if the ship itself pulled his strings, and in her chest, a cold truth settled. They were not just trapped inside the ship, they were trapped inside its will. The alien ship groaned like a beast roused from hunger. The walls shifted, smooth surfaces rippling into ridges, corridors bending and twisting like intestines alive. Every step the crew took, the ship changed, closing paths behind them, stretching others into endless halls that led nowhere. The air grew thick and hot, glowing veins spreading faster across the walls, pulsing like arteries full of light, and the whispers rose into screams, thousands of voices pounding inside their skulls. Mara staggered forward, her rifle heavy in her grip, shouting orders no one could hear. Her crew scattered in panic, some firing blindly into walls, bullets sparking harmlessly off the strange material. The young one clung to her arm, sobbing, "It won't let us out, Captain. It won't let us out." But the older man, the one who had betrayed them, laughed from deeper in the corridor. His voice carried strong, unnerving. "It's not trapping us. It's guiding us. Can't you see? Can't you feel?" Mara forced her crew to regroup, dragging the engineer and pilot into a tighter line. "Stay close, stay together," she barked. "Don't listen to the voices." But even as she spoke, her brother's voice returned clearer than ever, whispering her name with the softness of memory. She clenched her jaw until her teeth ached, refusing to answer, refusing to give the ship what it wanted, because she knew if she answered, it would have her body and soul. The floor suddenly dropped, a section opening beneath them like a mouth. The engineer screamed, his legs caught in the shifting plates, sparks flying as he tried to pull free. Mara grabbed his arm, hauling with all her strength. The young one helping, the ship pulsed harder, its veins glowing like fire, trying to drag him down. With a final heave, she yanked him loose, the floor slamming shut with a deafening crack. The pilot fired at the wall, shouting, "We're rats in a maze, Captain. It's playing with us," and he was right. Every turn twisted into another, every path leading back to the chamber. The betrayer appeared at the far end, his silhouette lit by the glow of veins, his smile wide, his arms raised. "You fight it, but it only makes you suffer," he called, his voice calm while theirs shook. "Give in, let it take you. It promised me life beyond death. Power beyond command." The whispers screamed louder, wrapping around his words like chains. The young one cried, "He's lost, Captain. He's not himself." Mara steadied her rifle, her voice sharp. "He's never coming back." The betrayer only laughed, pressing his hand to the wall, the veins under his palm glowing brighter as the corridor tightened around him, and the ship's voices answered through his mouth. Layered, inhuman. One must bind, one must remain. The crew stumbled forward, fighting to push past, the corridors folding, the walls breathing in and out. The engineer hurled a fuel cell, its sparks exploding into fire that forced the walls to recoil. For a moment they saw open space beyond, a path leading deeper into the ship. Mara shouted, "Move!" now dragging them through the fire-lit gap. The whispers followed, burning, mocking, laughing. Louder with every step. The ship was alive. The betrayer was its mouth, and every second they resisted only fed its hunger. But Mara clenched her jaw, tightened her grip on the young one's hand, and forced herself to keep moving, because there was still one truth she held, one thought that cut through the storm. If the ship wanted her to stay, then she still had the power to choose, and she would not give it that choice without a fight. The corridors narrowed until they were no longer halls but throats. The walls pressed close, pulsing with heat, veins glowing blinding blue, the ship's heartbeat rattling their bones. The whispers had grown into a storm, no longer faint, no longer fragmented, but one voice, vast and endless. "Stay, bind, become," it thundered inside their skulls. Mara staggered forward, dragging the young one, the engineer and pilot stumbling behind. At the far end, the betrayer waited, his body half wrapped in living tendrils of the ship. His eyes glowed with the same light that ran through the walls, his voice no longer his own. "You cannot escape," he said, calm, certain. "This ship is not a prison, it is a god, and it chose us." The tendrils curled tighter, his mouth stretched in a smile too wide. The ship's roar filled the corridor. "One must remain, one must bind." The engineer raised a shaking hand, holding a last fuel cell, his voice breaking. "We can end it, Captain, we can burn it down," the pilot snapped, his eyes wild. "You can't burn a god. It will kill us all before it dies." The young one clutched Mara's arm, sobbing, "Please, Captain, choose, please." Mara's chest heaved, her throat raw, the whispers pressed harder, her brother's voice rising above the rest. "Stay, Mara. Don't abandon me again." Her knees buckled. For a heartbeat she almost gave in, almost let the ship swallow her. But then she saw her crew, terrified, broken, looking to her as they always had. Not the governor of a world, not a general, just a woman who had chosen to lead when no one else could. Her brother's voice was not real. It was a wound twisted into a chain, and she would not let grief decide her fate. Her voice broke through the roar, sharp and final. "I choose for us." She tore the fuel cell from the engineer's hand, slammed it against the wall, and fired her rifle. The explosion ripped through the corridor, light swallowing light, fire rolling like a wave. The ship screamed, not in metal, not in alarms, but in a voice so vast it cracked the air. The betrayer shrieked, the tendrils burning, his body collapsing into ash as the walls split apart. Mara's crew clung to her, dragged by her strength as the corridor tore open into the void. For a heartbeat she thought the ship would consume them anyway, swallow their flames into its endless hunger. But the fire spread faster, brighter, tearing through veins, breaking ribs, splitting the heart of the beast. The whispers faltered, grew thin, then vanished, leaving only silence. The alien ship shuddered once, groaned like a dying titan, and then fell still, drifting again in the sea of stars. The survivors floated in the wreckage, clinging to each other, their breaths ragged, their bodies weak, and Mara, bloodied and burned, looked back at the husk and whispered, "Not yours. Never yours." The young one wept, the pilot gasped. The engineer laughed like a man broken. They were alive, scarred but alive. And the ship, the whispering Godok, was dead. Mara stared into the black, her hands shaking, her heart steady, knowing what she had destroyed. It had not been a prize, not a relic, but a predator waiting for prey. And though she had survived, she knew the truth. Out in the endless dark, there were more like it waiting. She closed her eyes, her voice low but unyielding. "Let them whisper. We will not stay." The stars burned on in silence. The wreck drifted into shadow, and in the heart of the void, the echoes of the ship's scream lingered, a warning or a promise that the whispers would one day return. But if they did, Mara would be ready. The salvage vessel Iron Hope drifted through the black sea of stars, its hull scarred from years of scavenging, its crew tired from another long run. Captain Mara stood at the viewport, her sharp eyes fixed on the silent giant floating ahead, an alien ship larger than anything she had ever seen. It was a shadow against the stars, half broken, half whole, its hull twisted like the bones of some ancient beast, glowing faintly with strange veins of blue light. Her crew whispered behind her, voices full of greed and fear. "Think of what's inside, think of the tech, think of the credits." But Mara's gut twisted. Something about the ship felt wrong, too quiet, too still. They hailed it with their weak transmitters. No response came, only static. The scanners showed no life, no heat, no power, just a drifting husk. "Dead," her engineer muttered, wiping sweat from his brow. "Dead for 1,000 years. Easy pickings." But Mara shook her head, staring at the faint pulsing glow along the ship's hull. "Then why does it breathe?" The crew laughed nervously. But when the pulse rippled again like veins under skin, none of them found it funny. They boarded anyway. Hunger for salvage stronger than caution. Their shuttle docked against a broken hangar, the doors groaning like the sigh of a dying giant. Inside was silence, thick and heavy, their lamps cutting through dust that floated like ash. The walls curved strange, not built for humans, smooth and seamless, with no bolts, no wires, no edges. It felt less like a ship, more like the inside of something alive. Mara led the way, her boots echoing too loud, her breath fogging in the cold air. Her crew followed, eager hands reaching for anything of value. Broken panels, glowing shards, fragments of alien metal. Every step deeper into the ship made her skin crawl. Her instincts whispering turn back. But the crew was deaf to warnings, their eyes bright with thoughts of fortune. And then, in the middle of a dark corridor, Mara froze, a sound faint, softer than a breath. Pressed against her ear, a whisper low, almost like her own voice. "Mara." Her lamp flickered, the walls seemed to pulse faintly. She spun, rifle raised, but behind her only her crew stood, their faces blank. None of them had spoken. "Captain," her pilot said, frowning. "You all right?" She swallowed hard, nodded once, but her hands shook. They moved on. But the whispers did not stop. Sometimes faint, sometimes sharp, sometimes laughter that scraped like glass. Mara clenched her jaw, tried to ignore them, but they grew clearer, words threading through the silence. They called her name again, and this time they added another word. "Stay." At the core of the alien ship they found a vast chamber. It stretched wider than their entire vessel, the walls lined with ribs of strange material that pulsed faintly. In the center lay a black throne-like structure, its surface slick, its shape wrong. The crew gasped, rushing forward, hands grabbing for fragments, their greed drowning their fear. But Mara stood still, her breath shallow, because she could hear the walls now. Not faint whispers, but a chorus, low and steady. They were not words, not language. Yet she understood. "We are waiting." The air grew warmer. The dust began to stir. Her crew laughed, shouting about riches, not hearing the voices that wrapped around her skull. Mara's lamp dimmed, her rifle heavy in her grip. She whispered to herself, "This ship is not dead." And as the walls pulsed again, like lungs inhaling, the whispers grew louder. They had been waiting, and now they were awake. The chamber's silence pressed against Mara's ears until it almost roared. Her crew's voices bounced off the walls, greedy laughter, clattering tools. Footsteps too loud in the hollow dark. They filled their packs with shards of alien metal, pried strange panels from the walls, pulled glowing fragments that hummed faintly when touched. But Mara could not move. Her boots felt rooted. Her skin prickled as if unseen eyes pressed into her. The whispers had not stopped. They slid along the edges of her thoughts, not outside her ears, but inside her head. Her engineer chuckled, holding up a panel with strange lines that shifted like liquid. "Worth more than this ship," he said, his eyes wide. "One piece could buy a city." The others laughed. Voices shaking off the cold, but Mara caught it. The way their hands trembled. The way their eyes darted too fast. They heard it too, she realized, they just did not admit it. She opened her mouth to warn them. But the ship spoke first. The walls pulsed, faint blue light flowing through them like veins. The floor vibrated under her boots, a soft hum rising. Low at first, then louder, her pilot cursed. "Captain, you see that? Power's coming back." The chamber filled with light that was not light, a glow that came from nowhere and everywhere. Mara raised her rifle, her voice sharp. "Stop." Everyone stopped, but no one listened. They could not. The whispers wrapped them now, guiding their hands, their voices soft, repeating words they should not know. Her engineer whispered back to the walls, smiling. "Yes, yes, I hear you." Her pilot laughed nervously, muttering, "Just tricks, just echoes, just—" and then froze. His eyes wide, his breath caught because the walls had spoken his name, clear and sharp in a voice that was his mother's. Mara's stomach turned, her blood ran cold. The ship was not echoing. It was remembering. One of the youngest crew dropped his pack, his face pale. "Captain, how do they know me?" "How?" Mara stepped forward, her voice firm. "Because it is not dead, it is alive, and it is listening." The chamber shuddered. The veins of light grew brighter. The ribs along the walls flexed, closing tighter. The air grew thick and hot. Their lamps flickered out one by one, leaving only the ship's glow. And in that glow the whispers became voices, hundreds of them calling names, secrets, fears, things no stranger could ever know. Her crew screamed, dropped tools, scrambled for the door, but the door was gone. Where once had been an open arch now stood a smooth wall, seamless as if it had never been there. Mara's chest tightened, her rifle heavy. She shouted, "Stay together, stay calm." But panic spread fast. Her pilot pounded on the wall, shouting for it to open. Her engineer tore at the floor until his hands bled. But the whispers only grew louder, almost laughing. "Stay, stay, stay." Mara forced herself to breathe, forced her mind to cut through the storm. She pressed her hand to the wall, feeling the faint warmth of its pulse. Her voice steady, though her heart raced. "What do you want?" she whispered. And the wall answered not with words, but with a shiver. The lights shifted, forming shapes. Vague outlines of human faces pressed in the surface, mouths open, whispering still. Her crew staggered back, eyes wide, one of them sobbing. "It remembers us, but how? How?" The faces melted, the wall smooth again. But the voices did not fade. They wove together, hundreds, thousands, each carrying fragments of memory. And then, sharp as a blade, one voice rose above the rest, speaking her name again. Mara. Her breath caught, her eyes stung. Because this time it was not her own voice she heard. It was her brother's, dead 10 years, calling her from inside the walls. The sound of her brother's voice froze Mara where she stood. It was impossible. He had died in the mines a decade ago. His body buried under stone, she had seen it herself. And yet the walls whispered with his breath. His tone, his laugh, soft and cruel. "Mara, don't leave me again." Her knees trembled. Her rifle dipped. For a moment she was no captain, just a sister ripped open by grief. Her crew saw her weakness and fear spread among them like fire. The young crewman sobbed, clutching his head. "It knows us. It knows everything. We have to leave, Captain. We have to leave now." But another, older and harder, shook his head, his eyes wide with a strange hunger. "No," he said, his voice trembling with awe. "Don't you see, it's not a curse, it's a gift. The ship is alive, it speaks to us, it remembers us." The others turned on him, voices sharp with fear. "You're mad. It's playing with us, it's a trap." But he only smiled, his hand brushing the glowing wall like it was a lover's cheek. The whispers curled around them all, softer now, tempting. Each voice tuned to the one who heard it. The pilot stiffened, his eyes wet. "That's my daughter's voice," he whispered. "She's on Earth, how could it know, how?" The engineer dropped to his knees, clutching the shard he had stolen. "It's showing me designs, blueprints, machines we could build, riches beyond all worlds." Mara's stomach twisted. She knew then what the ship was doing. It was dividing them, pulling them apart, and it was working. Her youngest crew backed away, pressing himself into the corner. his lamp shaking in his grip. "We have to go, Captain. It's alive. It's a trap. If we stay, we die." But the older one snarled back, his eyes glowing faint in the ship's light. "If we leave, we lose everything. Do you know what this ship is worth? What it offers?" The whispers rose louder, overlapping her brother's voice again. "Stay, Mara, stay. Don't leave me alone." Her chest burned. Her mind screamed to run, but her feet would not move. "Captain!" the young one begged. "Say it! Order us to leave! Order us back to the shuttle." Mara opened her mouth, but the words caught. The whispers tangled them. The older crewman stepped forward. His face shadowed. "Don't listen to him. Captain, don't listen to fear. This ship is alive. And it chose us." Mara's eyes snapped to him, his smile too wide. His hands pressed to the walls as if drawing strength. The ship pulsed brighter, veins glowing faster. Like a heart beating hard, her pilot shouted, "Stop touching it." "You'll wake it more," the engineer hissed back. It was never asleep, it was waiting. The chamber trembled, dust falling from above, the walls shifting like muscles stretching. The young one screamed, pounding his fists against the wall, searching for the door that was no longer there, but the whispers only laughed. A chorus that grew sharp and mocking. Mara gritted her teeth, forced her rifle up, her voice sharp. "Enough." The crew froze, their eyes on her, waiting. But she saw it, the split already carved deep, half of them trembling with fear, begging to flee, the other half staring at the walls with awe, already claimed by the whispers. She knew then that she was losing them, that soon she would no longer be captain, no longer their anchor. The ship had divided them, and soon it would devour them. The older crewman turned back, his smile cold, his voice steady. "You can fight it, Captain, or you can listen. It speaks to us for a reason." Mara's throat tightened, the walls pulsed again, and her brother's voice filled the chamber once more. "Mara," it whispered, soft, pleading, almost human. "Don't abandon me again." Her crew stared, divided, waiting for her choice, and in that moment, the ship's whispers filled the silence with one word spoken in 1,000 voices. "Stay." The chamber shook like thunder rolling through a hollow chest. Dust rained from the ribs above, the blue veins of light crawling faster across the walls, brightening with every pulse. The air grew hot, heavy, thick with a low hum that drilled into the bones. Her crew staggered, covering their ears, shouting at each other, their voices drowned by the rising sound. Mara gripped her rifle tight, forcing her breath steady, though her heart raced like a trapped animal. The young crewman screamed, "We have to get out!" "Captain, it's alive, it's alive!" He rushed to the wall, pounding with his fists, searching for the door that was gone. But the wall flexed under his blows, soft for a moment, then hard again, like flesh tightening. He stumbled back, eyes wide, his lamp flickering. "It moved, Captain, the wall moved." The others froze, their fear now undeniable, even as the whispers coiled tighter around their thoughts. The older crewman smiled, his hands pressed flat to the glowing veins. "Don't you see?" he said, his voice trembling with awe. "It's not dying, it's waking, it's been waiting for us." The pilot cursed, his rifle aimed at him now. "Step away from it. You're feeding it." But the older man only laughed, his eyes bright with madness. "Feeding it, yes, and in return it feeds us knowledge, power, voices of the dead." Mara's stomach turned cold, because she saw the truth. The ship had already chosen him. The chamber shook harder, the walls rippling like skin under a breath. The floor shifted, plates sliding apart, strange tendrils of metal rising like roots reaching for the air. The engineer shouted, his hands on his head. "Engines, I can hear them, it's powering up." Mara's eyes snapped wide. Engines. In a ship this size, if they fired, the colony ship outside could be torn apart like paper. Her voice broke through the storm, sharp and commanding. Everyone back now. But there was nowhere to go. The walls sealed, the door gone, every path smoothed away. The hum deepened into a roar, the veins glowed blinding blue, and the air vibrated with heat. Then, with a shudder that shook every rib, the alien ship moved. Outside, through cracks in the hull, Mara glimpsed stars shifting, the black sea of space crawling past. It was not drifting anymore. It was steering. Her crew panicked, voices rising in fear. "We're trapped, Captain, it's taking us." The whispers layered over their cries, louder now, clearer, no longer just murmurs but sentences. You woke us. You entered. Now you belong. The young one fell to his knees, sobbing, clutching his head. Make it stop, make it stop. The older crewman spread his arms, his smile wide. No, listen, it wants us. It needs us. Don't fight it. Mara snapped her rifle up, pointing it at him, her voice sharp. Enough, you're not its voice, you're its puppet. He only tilted his head, his eyes glowing faint in the alien light. And what if that's what we were meant to be? The ship roared again, the deck tilting, throwing them to the floor. The walls pulsed harder, every vein alive, every rib flexing, the chamber closing tighter like the throat of a beast. The whispers rose into a scream that shook her skull, words not in her language yet burning clear in her mind. Awake, awake, awake. Mara pressed her hand to the floor, feeling its heat, her voice breaking. It was never dead, the pilot shouted back. Then what is it, Captain, what is it? She swallowed hard, eyes fixed on the pulsing walls, her voice a whisper meant only for herself. It's not a ship. It's something worse. Something alive. And now it wants us. And as the last light of their own lamps died, the alien glow swallowed them whole, sealing them inside the belly of a waking giant.